So back to the essence. A chance to get back to the essence of me. When he sent me this song, I really had to dig deep and ask myself some questions. Let me tell you the definition of essence. The intrinsic nature or indispensable quality of something, especially something abstract, that determines its character. The intrinsic nature or indispensable quality of something that determines its character. That's the essence. So the title of my talk today is The Intrinsic Nature of You. So the first question, I have a lot of questions for you today, and these are just for you to think about. What is your intrinsic nature? What do you know as your intrinsic nature? As I was sharing with Eric, I've really thought about my determination in life and my competitive nature and my constant wanting to get ahead. Certainly I look back on my young days in New York and I see that, and I succeeded. It was a successful energy for me. But did I enjoy it? Not so much. Not a lot of the time, I find, when I look back. So what is your intrinsic nature? The next question I have for you is, what is your indispensable quality? So that means, what's that quality, Margaret, that you have that is indispensable to you? You cannot live without it. Eric, what is the thing about you that you could not live without? That indispensable quality. And then, what about you determines your character? What about you determines your character? If you were to ask somebody, like Margaret's here with her husband, if you were to ask Eric to tell you the answer to that question for you, what about you, when someone gets to know you, what strikes them about you? Like, we all can look at one another when we know each other really well and say, here's what I see. This is what I see when I see you. When I see Tiffany, I see determination. I see a lot of myself. I see a lot of that determination. I am going to take this world by storm. She is a go-getter. When I see my nephew Daniel, I've watched him since he was born. I see a free soul. I see this leaf just blowing in the wind, and this, I need to be free and just follow my whim, right? So, but that's not really who you are. That's my understanding of who your essence is, So the real question today is, what do you see when you see yourself? What is your essence? What is the nature of you? Meryl Streep says, and I love this quote, she says, "The essence of my acting is my curiosity. I want to know what it would feel like to be you." And she goes on in this and talks about her essence, the essence of her acting. Someone asked her about her acting. She goes, the essence of my acting, meaning the thing in her acting that makes her who she is, gives her the nature she has as an actress, is that she is so curious. She has this intense curiosity to find out, what would it be like to be Margaret Thatcher? What would it be like to be, who's the cook, the chef? Julia Childs. What would it be like to be that German woman whose children were being torn from her, in Sophie's Choice? What would it be like? So when you look at yourself, what is the essence of you? What is it that you know about yourself that you could not do without? Have you ever asked yourself, what is it really like to be myself? I mean, genuinely. What is the intrinsic nature of me? What is my authentic essence? Now here's the thing. There are two types of essence, right? And the thing is, what creates your essence? Like, what created Margaret Owens? What brought you to full potential right here today? What created whatever essence that is you decide for yourself? Or you, Eric, or Sherry, or any of us really. What has created it? Well, there's two really. There's two essences. There's your divine essence, your true essence, your authentic essence. And then there's the essence you've created. You've created Eric Overholzer to be this sensitive, caring man that everybody loves, who's smart, talented. You've created that. Is that your divine essence? Partially, there are pieces of it. But there is an essence inherent in each one of us that is untouched, unblemished, unchanged by anything. That's your divine essence. And then there's your story. There's the essence that you've created. You've decided you are. So in this month of knowing, I guess the question I'm asking you is, do you know who you truly are? And here's the interesting part of this. Every single one of us was born with a perfection that we are. Our essence, our divine essence, came out of the womb with us. Everything that's happened since is our story. That is the human essence that we have taken on this journey that we talked about. We've created these essences. Some of us have created essences about ourselves, the truth of who we are or that we think, based on things that have happened. I hear it all the time as a counselor. How many people tell me their story? How many times I've been telling my story? This is who I am because I had an alcoholic mother. I had an alcoholic grandmother. Oh, and an alcoholic grandfather. I had alcoholics all around me in my family. So do I like to drink? No. That created that in my life. Am I uncomfortable around people when they get drunk and sloppy? Extremely. Why? Because that's my story. That's just my story. That's who I grew up to be. Because of all of this, it created an essence in me that we get sometimes confused in thinking, this is my essence. No, this is your essence because you're reacting to what has happened. This is your essence that you created based on all the things that you've experienced in your life. Now, I'm not here to say your divine essence is way more important than your created essence, right? But Wayne Dyer says this: to stay forever young at heart, you must capture your childlike essence. To stay forever young at heart, you must capture your childlike essence. What was your childlike essence? Do you remember? Do you remember? I know, I do too. I remember. Can I tell you? My childlike essence was, they called me itchy because I was so annoying to my family. But mine was curiosity. There was nothing I wasn't interested in. As a little boy, I can imagine I crawled all over. I'm sure I was very difficult for my mother and father. Well, father wasn't there, but for my mother. I wanted to know everything about everything and pull everything apart, and I just was curious. That was my absolute essence. But I was taught very young not to be itchy, and now there's my story. Now I'm telling you my story. My innate itchiness, my innate curiosity was controlled, was told this is not right. You don't do this. I wanted to play with dolls. We all know this. I wanted to play with dolls as a little boy. That was not acceptable. So you don't do that. So when you look at your life, how much of who you are living today is what you know, K-N-O-W, because of what you've been told no to, N-O. How much of who you are now is truly authentic, or how much of it is your story? So I've had a story for a very long time, and my story is, I should have been this. I should have been this. I've talked about it many times as an actor. I knew I was going to New York to be a star, and I reached some modicum of success. However, I didn't reach the success I wanted, and there were things that were mine, and I lost in a flash for silly reasons. Except now when I look back, I lost them for very good reason. I didn't know who I was back then. I was believing some of my story. I was believing some of my family's story. Our family's AEP was, we never get the breaks. That was Carolyn, Mary Jane, Peggy Ann, my mother, my father, my sister, my daughter, all of them. We never get the breaks. That's what I grew up with. That was a Mellon family trait. Actually, it was a Harkins family trait. Harkins is my mother's side. We never get the breaks. So I changed that. I went against that and I got the breaks until I didn't. And then it was like, oh, right, remember? This is your real essence. You don't get the breaks. You're this kid from Philadelphia. You don't have that. You're not an upper crust. You don't have the education. You don't have that kind of talent. I got told that often. And I'm not blaming any of it, because today I stand here saying, wow, that was my story. It was their fault. It was her fault. It was his fault. And as I shared earlier, I'm like done trying to get over there and change who I am. Because today is all about the essence. What is your true essence? And Eckhart Tolle says, your true essence is your soul. Your true essence is your soul. The true essence of you cannot be determined by what you've done, by what you've accomplished. Now, the true essence of you can be determined by how much of your true authentic self you have allowed out and you have enjoyed. Because I think the most important part of this question, who am I really, has to come back to how much of life have I allowed to be lived through me? How much of the joy of life have I allowed to come through me? And that sometimes gets interrupted by things I think I have to accomplish, things I have to be. I have to be this. I have to be that. I have to be this successful by this age. I have to have this much money in the bank. I need to own this kind of house. I need to wear these kind of clothes. I need to have these kinds of friends. So we actually build up friends that don't even feel like friends anymore, because we're not really paying attention to what is it that is literally wanting to come through me. And that's what their song is about, right? Back to the essence. It's called Back to the Essence. Back to the essence of me. And that's a great song, and it's a great concept. But the question has to be, do you know what that back means? Back to what? You know, we're about to come out of this pandemic at some time, whenever that happens. I'm not going back to what was. You've had so much, that's what that song's about. You've had so much time on your hands to think about what is going on in my life. You've had so much opportunity to see what does work, what doesn't work, what has worked, what doesn't feel good anymore. I say it's really time for us, when he says get back to the essence, I think it's time for us to get back to asking the question, what is my true essence? Who am I really? Because once I'm clear on that, I'll know what to do. I'll know who to be. I'll know what my next move is. I'll know what the next thing I want to do is, because I will get back to something that already knows. Instead of using this critical mind I have, this critical thinking, to figure it all out, and I'm basing it on AEP's already established premises that don't even work anymore. So that's my big question to you today. Who is your true self? Because really we have to ask ourselves, which one's it going to be? Am I going to stick to my story? Or am I going to be willing to go back to my divine essence? Am I going to be willing to go back to that childhood thing in me that was so curious? There was back when I was in my early 20s, I was doing a show at the New York Shakespeare Festival. And I was in one theater, and Meryl Streep was in the next theater. And we would share these conversations during our breaks in the green room. And I remember one day sitting there with her, and I'd never seen her in any, yes, I saw her do Happy End on Broadway, but that's all I'd seen. So I knew she had already had a Tony nomination, and she was this upcoming major star. And she had a movie coming out, some little thing called Julia, that she was in like one scene in. And I remember sitting there and feeling like I was sitting in the midst of royalty. But I only felt that way because I now, looking back, I know it. I only felt that way because I don't think Meryl Streep has ever had to ask herself who she is when it comes to what she does. There are people that just know. There is a knowing that is so deep, that is just so intrinsically deep, that there's just a knowing, and it's a comfortability. And I believe every single one of us has that capacity. We're just trying to be Meryl Streep instead of James Mellon. We're just trying to be, this person. Instead, we're trying to be what we see out there as opposed to what's in here, the authentic, true essence. So as we move through the rest of this month, I really have to ask you, do you want your divine essence or do you want your made-up essence? This is one of the quotes I used earlier this month from Bruce Lipton. Human behavior is reaching its tipping point of releasing what no longer works. You cannot succeed and move into the future without changing the way we live. But perhaps it's not change at all that we need. Maybe it's not change. Maybe it's remembering. Instead of trying to change into something, how about remembering who we are so clearly, so deeply, that suddenly we're curious about everything because we don't know anymore. We just know. We don't know what all of this means, and we haven't already made our opinions of it. We haven't already decided what our story is. But there's a knowing in me that says, I'm open to all of this being different. I am open to my life being different. I'm open to my creativity being different. I'm open to my health being different. I am open to life being different by going back and remembering who I am. So that's really what that song says to me. And if the real thing for us to do is to go back to our true essence, we have to really ask ourselves, what is that? And ultimately, it goes to that corner, because that's our true essence, love only. And if my true essence is love only, life's going to shift. Every day now on Spirit Breath Meditation, I close the meditation out by asking a question. And I know I must have asked this in these last 28 Spirit Breath meditations. I must have asked at some point, what would life be like if we really could love only? Only come from love, no matter what. What would that do for my life? Viktor Frankl says this: no one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being until you love them. Just feel the weight of that for a moment. No one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being until you love them. So if today is about the intrinsic nature of you, some of the things I want you to ask yourself this week are, what can I not live? What do I have to have in my life? What could I not live without? Viktor Frankl says, you can't possibly know who you are until you are willing to love yourself. I can't possibly know who Margaret Owens is until I'm willing to love her. So I guess I know who you are. I can't possibly know who people are unless I am willing to come from love only. Then people will show you their true self. But more importantly, you're not going to be able to show your true self until you're willing to love yourself. And the only way you're going to get to love yourself is for you to know yourself. Otherwise, you're loving things. You're loving things about yourself. You're loving parts of yourself. You're loving successes. You're loving the way someone treats you. I'm talking about something so much deeper than that. So this week, I want you to spend some time reacquainting yourself with yourself. Take some quiet time. Really take some quiet, because it's so easy for us to get in a flow, a routine. No, I do this, and then I do this, and when that happens, I do this, and then I do this. What if you didn't do any of it? What if you actually said, like I do all the time, I know nothing. Now what can I know? I think that we have spent so much time living life. People write those books, The Game of Life. Here's how it happens. Here's the 7 steps to doing this. Here's the 6 steps to getting this, to accomplishing this. We are so busy trying to be something that we don't even know the something that we are. We all have time now. I think we're going to be social distancing even further for a bit, and I think that's not a bad thing. I think the universe, just like an earthquake, is just shaking us all up and saying, oh my God, God, you have just let yourself go crazy, and there's nothing to go crazy about. Your job should not rule you, and if it does, you don't know who you are. Your relationships should be exciting, curious, happy. There may be challenges at times. People are people. But is the love bigger than any of it? That's what matters. So this week, it's a great opportunity as we close out this month of knowing, to actually know something, to actually go to the intrinsic nature of you, the intrinsic nature of me. And I want to go back to the definition of essence. The intrinsic nature or indispensable quality of something, especially something abstract that determines its character. I want to go to the especially something abstract. And you know what? I almost took it out of the definition. I thought, I don't want to make people have to think too hard on a Sunday morning. But then I thought, no, it's there for a reason, but I don't know why. And I left it there, and I said, I'll know why if I need to talk about it. And that's what happened just now. The intrinsic nature or indispensable quality of something, especially something abstract. You know what's so great about that? Abstract kind of means you can't put your finger on it. You can't use your words. You can't define it. You can't put it in a box. You can't decide this is what it is. And yet, he says, something abstract that determines its character. Maybe who you are, maybe the intrinsic nature of you is something you've never thought of yet. Maybe you just don't know. It's just too abstract for you to get really clear on it. And maybe we don't have to be clear. Maybe we just have to be in that place where I remember who I am, and I do go back to the essence of me. But it's not the essence of something I remember. It's the essence of something so deep that I don't have to remember it. It remembers me. And when I just allow it to remember me, now I'm standing right in the center of love only. And then we can really use this affirmation. My life will definitely unfold perfectly. Namaste.